I think this episode understands engineers better than the entire history of Star Trek up to this point. I'm Gayfesh, and today we'll be talking Star Trek Lower Decks, Season 3, Episode 4, Room for Growth. But before we get started, make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Spoilers ahead. After Captain Freeman puts on a haunted alien mask and wreaks havoc on the ship, the engineering team is being run ragged getting everything back to normal. So Freeman decides to send them to the Dove, a futuristic spa spaceship. Spa ship? Spa ship. They're all given wristbands to monitor their stress levels, but instead of taking advantage of the various stress-relieving programs, they can't help but do engineering things, which leads Captain Freeman's wristband to turn from green to yellow to red to black. The spa's about ready to give up on her and send her to Earth, as even puppies and bunnies aren't enough to de-stress her. So the engineering team decides a booth that de-stresses you in 10 seconds flat. Turns out the most relaxing thing they can do is solve problems. Also, how much does one of those booths cost? I want to sit in it for a month. Also, the captain of the Dove immediately destroys the booth as soon as everyone is out of sight. It's treated as a throwaway gag, but I think we can spend a moment on the implications here. It's an interesting commentary on automation, the destruction of industries, and perverse incentives. The advances of technology and the Industrial Revolution and the invention of the automobile decimated the jobs of people who made horseshoes. For them, that meant their livelihood, so it's no wonder they would protest, but even in the future of the Federation where there's no money and thus none of the Dove's crew need to work here, she still feels threatened by something that could remove the need for her services. And rather than allow a de-stressing device to exist that could be easily installed in all starships, she'll destroy it to maintain her position. I think it probably says something about the hierarchical structure of the Federation. They may have eliminated money, but there are still systems in play that put some people over others. And people tend to not want to give up power once they have it. Back on the Cerritos, some quarters have opened up, so there is a room lottery to see who will be assigned it. Mariner, Boimler, and Tendi know that it's always weighted to the higher ranks, so there's very little chance they'll get it. But when Tendi overhears some of the Delta shifters talking about rigging the lottery computer so they can get it, they hatch a plan to beat them to the punch, which involves crawling through a bunch of lesser-known areas of the ship. They have to access it through the holodeck, where they sneak in on Shax and Tiana playing bank robbers with the safety protocols off as some kind of erotic foreplay. I mean, I don't think the risk of getting my head blown off is for me, but I'm not one to kink shame. I love this whole sequence because it gives us a look at parts of the ship we typically don't see. There's a bog underneath the hydroponics bay, which is so full of nitrous oxide that it makes Boimler and Mariner have some pretty hilarious hallucinations. Then they get into the deflector array, which is a low-gravity environment that Boimler starts flying around in, just in time for the deflector to turn on to break up some incoming asteroids, turning the whole room into a big centrifuge. Mariner and Tendi have to build a tether out of their clothes to keep Boimler from being squished to death. They get to a room with a vent that only opens once an hour and have to wait, by which point Delta Shift catches up with them. They appear to get along after swapping stories, and it seems like if they'd only gotten to know each other better, they wouldn't have such animosity. That is until the vent opens and Delta Shift leaves them in the dust. They're almost consigned to their fate, but Boimler notices the room has a water flow that is draining somewhere. And so they follow the drain and discover a shortcut to the lottery computer. Once they find out that they had heard wrong and it wasn't 4 rooms on deck 1, but 1 room on deck 4, they realize that if any of them get it, it'll split up the team, so they decide to leave it for Delta Shift anyway. Of course, the dumbasses never thought about putting 4 beds in 1 room, but Delta Shift did, and now they've got the party room on the ship. Dumbasses. So that's it for this episode. How do you like it? Let me know in a comment below.
I know it was a throwaway gag in the beginning of the episode, but will someone please put a lid on the jar for Goopy? Tendi can't keep having to rescue the little guy. Oh, and I tried to find a picture of the guy, but made the mistake of searching Goopy on Twitter and clicking the media tab. Just be warned.
Be sure to like, subscribe, ring the bell, and share the video with your friends. Subscribe to my Patreon to get shouted out in future videos. Check out my Bandcamp for banging tunes, including all the tracks you heard in this video. Follow me on Twitter @GayestFesh, and don't forget to check out my podcast, The Rest of Both Worlds, where I go through Star Trek The Next Generation with a friend who's never seen it. Thank you to all my patrons, with a special shout out to Piftle Cakes and Renee Vorbeck. Your support is greatly appreciated. See you all in the next video.